on verse number 15. Continuing with the discussion, the prayers of Daksha to Lord Shiva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Word to word synonyms, translations and purport for Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So the verse, I'll recite the verse now. Yo so maya vidita tattva drusha sabhayam क्षिप्तो दुरुक्तिविशिखैर्विगणय्यतन्माम् अर्वाक्पतन्तमर्हत्तमनिन्दयापाद् दृष्ट्यार्द्रया स भगवान् स कृत्रेण तुष्येत्. Hopefully you are able to hear my audio properly. So the word synonyms. Yah, who, asau, that, maya, by me, avidita tattva, without knowing the actual fact, drusha, by experience, sabhayam, in the assembly, kshiptaha, was abused, durukti, unkind words, vishikhaihi, by the arrows of, vigannaya, taking no notice of, tat, that, mam, me, arvak, downwards, patantam, gliding down to hell, arhat tama, the most respectable, nindaya, by defamation, apat, saved, drushtya, seeing, ardruya, out of compassion, saha, that, Bhagavan, your lordship, Swakrutena, by your own mercy, Tushyet, be satisfied. So who that by me, without knowing the actual fact, by experience, in the assembly was abused, unkind words, by the arrows of, taking no notice of, that me, downwards gliding down to hell, the most respectable by defamation saved, seeing out of compassion, that your lordship by your own mercy be satisfied. Translation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I do not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly, although you did not take them into account. I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me and saved me from awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Let's come to the purport. As usual, a devotee in an adverse condition of life accepts such a condition to be the mercy of the Lord. Actually, the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into a hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment to neutralize the offense. King Daksha realized this, and feeling obliged to Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, wanted to show his gratitude. Sometimes the father punishes his child, and when the child is grown up and comes to his senses, he understands that the father's punishment was not actually punishment but mercy. Since Daksha appreciated that the punishment offered to him by Lord Shiva was a manifestation of Lord Shiva's mercy, that is the symptom of a person making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. It is said that a devotee in Krishna consciousness never takes any miserable condition of life to be condemnation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepts the miserable condition by the grace of the Lord. He thinks, I have been punished and put into more dangerous or put into more dangerous condition of life. Sorry, excuse me. I would have been punished or put into a more dangerous condition of life due to my past misdeeds. But the Lord has protected me. Thus, I have received only a little punishment as token execution of the law of karma. Liking of the grace in this way, a devotee always surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead more and more seriously and is not disturbed by such so called punishment. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So you've done our prayers before. Now, here, just to give the perspective, after Lord Shiva, he created a demon, and along with his associates, they destroyed and stopped the yagna of Daksha. When Daksha had insulted Lord Shiva in the first instance, and then Daksha, due to his behavior and not giving oblations to Lord Shiva in his sacrifice, Mother Sati, Lord Shiva's wife, and the ninth daughter of Lord of Daksha, the Prajapati progenitor, and very dear daughter, actually, the dearest, the youngest is the very dearest. She actually left her body voluntarily. This angered Lord Shiva, and that's why all this was done. And all the demigods had to run away. Brigu and Brigu's followers, who had created havoc for the followers of Lord Shiva, they also had to run away. The sages had to run away. Even some of them, Brigu also had his beard cut off. Daksha had his head cut off, chopped off, and he was burned to ashes so that the head does not grow back again. We discussed last week and 2 weeks ago about the importance of cremation. Now, here, after this, under the leadership of Lord Brahma, all these demigods, the sages, and even Daksha, they all came. They all came to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva forgave them. He said, I never took personal offense. But how does a great authority act, and how we should understand the great authority's actions? That is given and exemplified now by Daksha's behavior in this particular verse. You see, Daksha was given, his head was chopped off and burned, so he could not get his head, original head. That's why he was given the head of a goat. So here, by Lord Shiva, here, after he sees Lord Shiva and the position of Lord Shiva when he sees through the eyes of, with the head of goat, he is now thanking Lord Shiva and glorifying. He said something very important which are relevant even today. He said, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly. He says, Durukti Vishikhaihi. So, Kshiptaha Durukti Vishikhaihi. Kshiptaha means he was abused. Lord Shiva was abused. Durukti means by unkind words. Vishikhai, he means by arrows of unkind words. You see, this is very relevant today in for any living being, any human being actually, where when their own near and dear ones, when they speak unkind words to them, for us, when our own dear ones speak unkind words to us, they are like arrows which pierces our heart. And we can take any arrows or any insults from any other person, but it's very hard to digest those insults when it is directed by our own dear ones to us. So this is what Daksha, being the husband, being the father of Sati, whom Lord Shiva was the husband. So actually, Daksha was the father-in-law of Lord Shiva. They had intimate relationship, but he never liked Lord Shiva actually. And saying that, Lord Shiva did not stand up to receive him in the assembly of for the yagna of Daksha yagna. He started to speak unkind words. That's what he's saying. He remembers this. He says that I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly, although you did not take them into account. Because at the time, Lord Shiva did not utter a single word, although there was Lord Shiva's followers countered and spoke unkind words back to to Daksha. But Lord Shiva did not say anything. So this is the point to be understood that we should be very careful, at least when we deal with a Vaishnava is careful to deal with anybody, in dealing with anybody. But especially we should be careful when we're dealing with our own people. Of course, when things are needed to be corrected, we have to speak some strong words. But unnecessarily we should not. They are like sharp arrows, as Daksha has mentioned here. He realized his offenses. Because his cruel and sharp words are sharper than normal arrows. Normal arrows would kill you. Here, this will not kill you, it will bleed you throughout. And the bleeding does not stop unless one is very, very advanced in his Bhagavad study and implementation of Srimad Bhagavatam in one's life. The other thing is that here, in this particular verse, Daksha is saying that I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you. But who are most respectable personality, it's the Lord Shiva. But you took compassion on me and saved me by awarding punishment. What does this mean? What does this mean? So here it means that the offense of Daksha towards a pure Vaishnava is so great that one has no other choice but to glide down into hellish conditions of life. It is automatic. As Srila Prabhupada says that the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into hellish life. And it is said in the fifth canto that moment you go down, glide down in lower life forms, in lower planets, planetary systems, hellish planets, it's nearly impossible to come out of it. So, if we have been, even ourselves in our journey as a spirit soul, if we were in hellish planets and now we are on this earthly planet, we must count our great fortune that we've got this great opportunity of human birth and we must finish this whole cycle of birth and death now. And especially when we have come in touch with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's teachings in this movement, it will be very unfortunate for any of us if we do not make the most of it and stop our repeated cycle of birth and death. So here, Daksha Srila Prabhupada mentions this. He could have been thrown perpetually into hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment to neutralize the offense. What does this mean? You see, Krishna's actions, the karma, works in such a way that if you do something wrong, you're going to reap the benefits, either good or bad. But here, with the great Mahajan authorities of Lord Shiva, like Lord Shiva took it upon himself and punished him. So the actions don't work of the karmas. You see, of course, he lost his head. Daksha lost his head. But he at least got his another head in the form of a goat, and he was saved from the perpetual life of hell, living in hell. How does it affect us in our devotional service? This example we must remember. And whenever any higher authority who are righteous and who are duly and genuinely senior, who are our well wishers, if our well wishers sometimes chastise us, we have to understand this point of Daksha and Lord Shiva, where Daksha could understand through his intelligence. It could have been much worse, but this higher authority saved me. And chastisement generally is done by higher authorities to correct us, correct our behavior, which help us in our path of devotional service. Of course, we must understand who's our friend and who's not our friend. I can tell you, in my life, there were some defining moments when I was chastised by people whom I did not even know, but who corrected me using some strong words. And those strong words and those chastisements has defined me as a person. It helps me even today. And in this today's discussion, I remember those chastisements by people whom I did not even know, those instructions which they gave me. So here, coming back to the point, Daksha was saved by Lord Shiva with this chastisement. And this is how a person should be very intelligent in understanding what is in his best interest. You see, Srila Prabhupada gives us information about how an intelligent person learns. Ultimately, we have to learn, right? Even from chastisement, we have to learn. Srila Prabhupada said there are three kinds of intelligent people. First kind, I think, is in the first or second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. First, second, third, either of these three cantos. I think first, second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first kind are those people, the best, most intelligent people are those people who learn from others' mistakes. You see? So if we are very intelligent, we will learn from Daksha's mistake and never repeat that mistake. So one who learns from others' mistake is the most intelligent. Lower than that, most intelligent, those who are intelligent, clever, they learn from their own mistakes. They commit mistake and they learn, oh my, I got a chastisement, I suffered, I have to be very careful. The third kind of people who are not intelligent at all, who they do not learn at all, neither from others seeing others' mistakes, nor when they are making mistakes, their own suffering, they don't learn. They are as good as pashus, actually, animals, who don't learn. So we also have to be very careful which category we fit in. And I can tell you one thing, it requires a very stable mind, very calm intelligence to become the most intelligent, where we can see from and learn from others' mistakes. We have to acquire those skills of seeing things with a vision, of not judging people, but learning and saying, how would this affect me? So, because Daksha, he was the progenitor, he creates progeny of the whole universe on behalf of Lord Brahma. He was very intelligent. He could understand it was better for him to get his head chopped off rather than to have perpetual life in hell. You know? So, as we discussed in the fifth canto, it says that it's nearly impossible to come out of the hellish planets. That is the reason why a devotee of the Lord, a Vaishnava, is called an introspective sage. An introspective sage. Pashyataha munehe. Now, this particular word, introspective sage, Pashyataha munehe, what is described by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita in the second chapter, where he says, Lord Krishna instructing Arjuna, says, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. Here, pashyato munehe. So he's saying that Ya nisha sarva bhutani. What is nisha means night. What is night? Sarva bhutani for all living entities. Tasyam jagrati samyami. In that, Jagrati meaning he wakes, he's very wakeful. Samyami means one who is self controlled, Samya, seeing things equally, having equilibrium when one's senses are controlled. So, what is night for ordinary living beings is very wakeful time for a sage, self controlled sage. Yasyami Jagrati Bhutani Na Sa Nisha Pashyato Munehe. Yasyami Jagrati Bhutani, so in which what is awake for all living beings is Nisha, sleeping time, night time for the introspective sage. Opposite. So here the translation Srila Prabhupada says, what is night for all living beings is the time of awakening for the self-control. And the time of awakening for all living beings is a night for introspective sage. What does this mean? You see, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. It's a very short purport, very beautiful. Prabhupada says there are two classes of intelligent men. The one is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self realization. Activities of introspective sage, a thoughtful man, are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self realization. I'll repeat again. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. They're not interested in self realization. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance and self realization. You talk to them about self realization, they are saying you're wasting your time and wasting my time. Talking about money, money, money. If not, not interested. Like honey. The introspective sage, Prabhupada continues, remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self realization activities undisturbed by material reaction. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So this is the point. We all should become that introspective sage. Only then our intelligence will be clever, will be better. We can cleverly see things as they are. Pashyatah munehe. We all have to become munehe. We all have to become sages. Introspective sage, seeing within, not seeing outside. And we see outside just to learn about our within. You see, that is the reason why it is mentioned in the scriptures that a true Vaishnava, a pure devotee of the Lord, his activities nobody can understand. Normally, people are interested in making more and more wealth, but a devotee says, "No, I've got more than enough. Krishna has given me enough, so I can sit and do my bhakti for him. Chant his rounds sincerely, increase them. I can then offer my obeisances to Krishna, offer my archan, arti to him, study scriptures about him and of him, which he has spoken and which have been spoken by him and by his devotees, like Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Otherwise, when are we going to find time to study them? When? So at least after a certain age, we must reduce our material activities. At least by 50 years, if we cannot accept vanaprastha, we must accept vanaprastha. It's a mental situation. We should do it. Spend more time with Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Implement in our lives. Preach if we can. If you can't, no problem, preach ourselves. Preach to our own self. Preaching is mainly done only to ourselves, not to others. Others are getting benefited, good for them. Otherwise, the satisfaction is very critical. So, those things ordinary people cannot understand because they want to make more and more money. That's why it is mentioned in the scriptures. Vaishnavera kriya mudra vigneha na bhujayah bhujyah. This is a Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada says even a very intelligent man cannot understand the activities of a pure Vaishnava. See, only he, the pure Vaishnava and the Lord understands his activities. So in the Madhya Lila, it is mentioned, Yandra Chitta Krishna Prema Kare Udaya Tandra Vakya Kriya Mudra Vignena Na Bhujaya. It is said, even the most learned men cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in love of Godhead. Because the activities are different. That's what Daksha did not understand when Lord Shiva did not stand up the very first time in the assembly. Where he says, "You should have paid obeisances to me." And later on, when Lord Shiva were conversing with his wife Mother Sati, Lord Shiva said, one, when one pays someone obeisances, the obeisances are paid not to the person, but to the super soul inside that body of the person. So Daksha misunderstood. He says, people should pay obeisances to me. Lord Shiva said, this is wrong. Obeisances are paid to the super soul. So when we pay obeisances, namaste, we pay to the super soul inside the body of the living being. And Lord Shiva said, I did not stand up for him because I was already absorbed in my connection with the super soul in my heart. I was constantly in touch with the super soul in my heart, with Krishna, Vasudeva in my heart. So I was already doing it to him indirectly. But he was too materially engrossed to accept this. This is the point. This is how activities of Lord Shiva was not understood, were not understood by Daksha. And that's why all these things happen. So much disturbance, life destroyed, wife, his child been killed. He cannot be brought to life. Of course, he becomes the next birth is the daughter of Himalaya. That's why she was called Parvati. She gets married to Lord Shiva again. And of course, Daksha also gets another body as Prajapati because of his position and because Lord Shiva forgave him. You see, So we have to be very, very careful, especially when we're dealing with Vaishnavas, and especially those Vaishnavas who are very advanced in their Krishna consciousness, who are seeing Super Soul everywhere. It is not possible. That's why it says even the most learned men cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in the love of Godhead. This was exemplified in the actions of Maharaj Ambarish, the ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. When Maharaj Ambarish were insulted unnecessarily by Durvasa Muni, and when Durvasa Muni came back into his consciousness, his intelligence, by the mercy of Maharaj Ambarish, Lord Vishnu said, I can't help you even. What are you talking to me? I am under the control of my devotees. I'm not independent of my devotees. Lord Vishnu told them, you are mistaken, my dear friend. My devotees control me. Just imagine. Devotees are so powerful, those devotees. They control God out of their love. And God voluntarily accepts being controlled by these devotees, pure devotees. So here, after Maharaj Ambarish had forgiven Durvasa Muni, Durvasa Muni in his prayers prays this. प्रीतोऽस्मि अनुगृहीतोऽस्मि तव भागवतस्य वै दर्शनस्पर्शनालापैर् आतिथ्येनात्ममेधसा. You see, Durvasa Muni were actually not invited in the big ceremony by Maharaj Ambarish. When all the sages and all the sages were invited by Maharaj Ambarish during the Dwadashi day. But Durvasa Muni came on his own. As he came, Maharaj Ambarish welcomed him, and he was fasting for 3 nights. And he was feeding all these sages. After feeding them, they were satisfied. And he was about to break his fast by honoring Prasadam. Durvasa Muni came. So Maharaj Ambarish stopped, welcomed him, and said, please welcome, and said, please honor Prasadam. Durvasa Muni he was very puffed up. He said, yes, thank you, I'll be coming to you. And he went to take his bath in the Yamuna. But in saying that, by doing this, the timing was over, getting over, of breaking the fast. And when Maharaj Ambarish asked his Brahmana leaders who were guiding him, what should I do? They could not give an answer. Then he himself is a learned scholar of Shastra. He said, if I think, he thought this way, if I drink water, then water drinking is like eating and not eating, both together. So drinking of water is eating and not eating. That's why many times people, when they want to continue their fast, they drink water. Because technically speaking, drinking water is considered to be eating and not eating both at the same time. So Maharaj Ambarish, following the instructions of the scriptures, that when you got a big atithi, a guest at home coming who's not had prasadam, you should not eat, you should not honor prasadam before him. So he drank some water so he could continue the fast. But Durvasa Muni became very upset. He created a demon from his hair, very powerful demon, a big demon. Everyone got scared of him. He was huge. But he said Maharaj Ambarish did not even move his feet. He stood as it is. He was not afraid. Because in the beginning of the chapter, it is mentioned that Maharaj Ambarish, through his devotional service, had got the shelter of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu had always kept Sudarshan Chakra for his protection. So one may think, oh, Maharaj Ambarish did not get scared of this demon because he knew that Sudarshan Chakra will protect him. In the very next words, it is mentioned that he did not expect anything from anyone, including Lord Vishnu. He was just not afraid because he was satisfied in his devotional service, seeing this demon. But being that, in that position, immediately Lord Shiva Sudarshan Chakra came and killed the demon and ran behind Durvasa Muni, as we know. So when nobody could save him, and well, even Lord Vishnu, God Himself, the final, nobody can know is bigger than God. He says, I am not independent of my devotees. They control me. So go to them. Only Maharaj Ambarish can save you. So after he was saved, he came and fell down at the feet of Lord of Maharaj Ambarish. And Maharaj Ambarish, he was feeling very embarrassed because he touched his feet. He says, please don't. He says, and then he prayed to Sudarshan Chakra that if I've done any past activities, if I've done anything good, any devotional service, then please, this personality, Durvasa Muni, should be saved. Please. This is how he prayed. Very beautiful prayers. And when he was saved, that's when Durvasa Muni came to his senses. Because he couldn't understand the intricacies of behavior of a pure Vaishnava. That's why he says, Pritahasmi anugrahitosmi. So I'm very satisfied. Prita means I'm very satisfied, very much favored. I'm favoring you. Tava Bhagavatasya vai. He says, because you are a pure devotee, you being a pure devotee. So indeed, darshana sparshana lapai. Darshana, by seeing you. Sparshana, by touching your feet. Alapahi, by talking with you. Atithyadatma medhasa, by your hospitality. Atithya. Atithya, Atma, Medhasa. Atithya means being hospitable, by your hospitality, welcoming him, giving him prasadam, treating him respectfully. Atma Medhasa, my own intelligence. With my own intelligence, now I can understand that you are a pure devotee. You see, that's why he says that, in translation, Srila Prabhupada says, Durvasa Muni said, I am very pleased with you, my dear king. At first, I thought of you as an ordinary human being and accepted your hospitality. But later, I could understand by my own intelligence that you are the most exalted devotee of the Lord. Therefore, simply by seeing you, touching your feet, talking with you, I have been pleased and have become obliged to you. So, just a final point now in our discussion. How is it said that a moment's association with a pure devotee changes one's life? It's very auspicious. How does it happen? It happens through the instructions of a pure devotee. A Vaishnav, by his instructions, he can change people's lives, our lives. And we have to be very intelligent to learn from those instructions. Not only the verbal instructions been given, but even the actions that have been performed. The second point also, the actions that have been performed by a Vaishnav. We have to utilize all our senses, all our intelligence when we are dealing with Vaishnavas. Because they will teach us through words, through mind, through actions. Vasha Manasa Gira. So, this is what I understood from today's discussion. I'll repeat this verse today again. The translation: I did not know, Daksha is telling Lord Shiva, I did not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly. Although you did not take them into account, I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me, and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. It's just like pure devotee is just like Mother Ganges, Mother Ganga, Ma Ganga. How can you we take benefit from Ma Ganga? But how do you pray? We take her own water and we pour back at her. saying that we cannot do anything more to you, Mother. Please be satisfied by your own mercy. So pure Vaishnavas are like that. So in our discussion, we understood that when our near and dear ones speak harshly to us, they are like arrows which pierces our heart, and they are more painful than the arrows given by real arrows or given by people whom we do not know. So we have to be very careful in our dealing with our near and dear ones and with everybody really. We also then discussed about mercy and chastisement. How many times when those who are our favorable people to us, when they chastise us, is actually mercy given by them to us. We understood about three different kinds of intelligent people. You want to learn from own mistake, from others' mistake, and never learn at all. And we understood how Daksha was clever, being the progenitor. He understood from his own mistakes. And we understood how one has to achieve that position, one has to become an introspective sage. We saw the words in the Bhagavad Gita where Lord Krishna says that the behavior of introspective sage in this material world is that he's sleeping when people are awake, not interested, and when he's awake, people are not interested in him. So his activities of introspective sage are very different. People will never understand the activities of an introspective sage, but one has to be very confident about one's activities. And this was mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that even a very intelligent man cannot understand the activities of a pure Vaishnava. Only Krishna can understand with him. Okay. And then we understood from this, finally, we took the live example of introspective sage and actions. For example, of Maharaj Ambarish, where Durvasa Muni, such a great personality, even he could not understand. Just like Daksha, even he could not understand the actions of Maharaj Ambarish. We saw in short, in brief, the whole pastime of Maharaj Ambarish and how he forgave him. And then we understood that moment association with such kind of pure devotees changes our lives, provided we utilize all our senses and we engage them in learning and getting instructions from these devotees. That is the actual meaning of gopi. Go means senses, p means pibyate. So all these personalities, they engaged all their senses in Krishna and drank the nectar of Krishna. That's how we can follow the gopis, the most exalted, by utilizing and following these instructions from him, engaging all our senses in serving our dear Lord Krishna and his devotees. This is what I understood from this verse. Thank you very much. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai. Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Word to word synonyms, translations and purport of Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Chandra Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Shashananta Koti Vaishnavanda ki Jai. Hare Krishna.